Howdy of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Death Race 3 Inferno. So, going into this franchise knowing that there is one other movie after this one, because it's kind of funny because they kind of tee this movie up to go into supposedly the very last Death Race movie where they kind of say it's like, oh yeah, Coach is going to be the next, like, Coach, of course. And, like, if we didn't in Death Race 2 teed up that they're kind of going after the the warden who goes into uh, Death Race 1, which never happened in this movie. Then we have in this film the coach that is never be a coach in any of the rest of these films. So there's kind of teeing up to the very first Death Race movie, but like there's a lot of preparation that doesn't seem to land anywhere, where they couldn't have made some kind of actual cameo with any of these actual actors, so they have to use their photos to just say, hey, yeah, they're coming somewhere down the line. So, how did I feel about Death Race 3 Inferno? Well, really, we kind of get down to the nitty gritty of this movie feeling like a cheaper variation of a previous film, because we have a previous film that was all right, like it was a good enough, thinking that like we can go from Death Race 2 to go into the original Death Race Jason Statham movie. But now we kind of put this movie together where it's just kind of a weaker of the three original films, because we have a fourth Death Race movie that is just be its own thing, and then Death Race 2000 that has nothing to do with any of these things whatsoever, and that's a blatant remake of just another movie called Death Race 2000. It's like similar territory, but like Death Race 2000 feels like this film. Like, but it's a little bit better, but that's not saying much. Because going into this movie, the horrible thing about this film is there's so many times in this film where you have, when people are to be talking in this film, for a bulk of this movie, you could have just had any of these lines delivered anywhere and it wouldn't have mattered. There's so many lines, and there's so many things that they re-go back to in this movie to stretch time. I don't know why that this movie is like an hour and 45 minutes. Plus, the very beginning of this film is to remind us of Death Race 2. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like, Death Race 2 pretty much was like a straight to almost video release kind of thing. And this one was quickly shoved off into a video or Blu-ray and DVD release. And so why is this movie having to remind us of a previous movie that is from an installment of things? I am so confused. Why we have to have like a, hey guys, you want a recap of Death Race 2 and Death Race 3, just in case you weren't paying attention because you were just like, hey, this is a sand buggy race thing? Man, I really need to go and just see this one separately from the rest of the franchise. People were wasting time in this film. People were really wasting time. As well as just the lines of which that anyone was to deliver in this movie was honestly a waste of time. Like, we not only have, like, Carl having to win back his team not only once, but then, hey guys, wait a minute, just come back over here and tell you that I still need to win you over. Please come over here and let me win you over again to tell you the real truth. That there's a whole reason I had to keep my secret. There's a whole if I didn't tell you this before, I'm telling you again now. There's a whole reason I had to keep my secret. So we have Ving Rhames, who is to just kind of hand this off, of course, to uh, DeGrace Scott, who probably a lot of people will probably sadly only know DeGrace Scott probably more recently from Batwoman, which is not to like really tell us that we're gonna get a good quality movie here based on a guy who is to come from this to go to Batwoman. Uh, um, we we really have this silly battle for navigators in this movie. We have this like this death battle thing because they want to keep that from the last movie and just be like, hey, we have to have this like Mortal Kombat fighting scene for like fighting for position. So all the navigators have to do that now. And I'm like, well, like I could see like that seems like a strategically intelligent thing to do, that a bunch of women all fighting it out. That seems like a smart strategy, and plus also women fighting is a popular thing. But here's the problem with navigators in this movie. Navigators in this film are completely pointless characters. Not a single one of these characters who are navigators, even Katrina herself, who was the most popular one because she is to pretty much be from the last movie. Hence why also we have to have, even though if uh, Frankenstein is in first place in his race, we still have to give him a consolation prize in this movie because because he's a celebrity now. Like before, like he got a consolation prize when he won a race. Now in this movie, he gets a consolation prize just because he's there. Whatever in this film. So, but the navigators don't have a one lick of line delivery to say, "Hey, there's a shortcut," because there really isn't. Not there isn't one. Nobody knows where they're going. Nobody knows where they're driving, obviously, because I don't think anybody is really driving in this film, seemingly anywhere. We really have it to where there's no, like, between any of these drivers, none of these drivers have any real acting experience between any of them. None of them feel like they have unique personalities besides possibly Psycho. 14K seems to just be repeating anything that he had said in previous Death Race movies, and but 14K is still bringing us like some pretty decent still acting experience compared to everyone else. We have Lucas, who's to like still give us a pretty good performance, even though there are plenty of times where even he is repeating the exact same lines from some other part of this film. And I'm just like I don't know how many times that Lucas could say it's like, "Hey, I'm getting sick of this guy. Like I gotta take him out." What if he was going to say that to Olga? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they have to just uniquely spell it out that, "Hey guys, we have a female driver." So, like, is she gonna be a better actor compared to anyone else in this film? No. If anything, she's awful. She's to be the one thing where we're like, yeah, this is you. This is unique. I like this because we have a female driver, and this girl who is to be presented here is just like, God, I just. If she could never have one single line in this movie, as well as a bulk of all these people that race in this, it would not have made a difference. Olga is a character that I'm like, let's wait till she dies. There's nothing to her, as well as a number of these characters. It just like, hey, a nice piece of butt, basically. That's sadly, I don't, like I'm not going to discriminate. Everybody probably has a nice butt in this movie. Even Danny Trejo, who we see some rear action. Uh, there's plenty of times where it doesn't really seem that the race is actually going to kill somebody in this movie. And plus, also, there's twice in this film where the race doesn't actually kill somebody, it's just somebody doing a stupid maneuver, which garners them to slowly but surely end up getting killed by some rocket coming out of somewhere that they have to just really just build this whole rocket thing coming out and attacking some car from some part of somewhere. So this race is to be way more opened, like than the previous films. That it seems to be much more of a race where I'm like, I don't even understand what we're doing, where we're going. Like this race has got to seem like the longest freaking race that I could ever think we could have. There is only a sword, there is no shield in this race, and even with there just being a sword in this race, we don't even have the plates like we had in other Death Race movies because this movie is hilariously cheap. Uh, and also, like, the swords are just, hey guys, just drive through the swords. And, like, they'll activate supposedly by having this special effect blink the sword and make it so that it's activated. I'm like, that is such. This movie feels hilariously cheap. Um, man, I just feel just like, man, they're gonna like leave off basically this original run with Carl Lucas, and that they're gonna leave it off with this garbage. Like, come on. Like, how. Like, for anybody that probably would have looked back on this movie and just like, man, like, cash that check, right? We go into these, like, unique locations, locales, and whatever, because it just feels like it's the Vegas vacation of like, hey guys, I don't want to go and do another seemingly prison race. Let's try to do these sand doom buggy like races to just seem drastically different than anything we'd done before. Plus, I'm kind of wondering if they were kind of forced in that direction just because they couldn't reuse the Death Race cars again, so they had to come up with something unique that just felt cheaper. Felt cheaper, looked cheaper. But yeah, so I think that's all I want to say about Death Race 3 for the cryptic like sense. I think it's about time to bust out the double five, because otherwise, that time yet again to go into that double five. Let's go into it. Let's do this thing called spoilers. Let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about that time we get to spoil this movie. So let's go into it. So, Niles York is to buy out the death race thing, prison, whatever, uh, right under Waylon's nose. And so Wayland is just to kind of bow out, but he has some kind of tail end like thing connected to the part of the story where he is to kind of via phone call uh, just kind of confirmed that he had some involvement with the tail end of this movie. So Wayland is going off to talk to Lucas, and so Lucas is to tell Wayland that uh, that Niles won't care about him just like Wayland won't care about him because Wayland only helped Lucas because there was an infection upon Lucas's face. So Wayland had to take care of Lucas because otherwise he would have died. And so Niles is probably going to only take care of Lucas because Lucas is basically his prize pig. And like that sounds like horrible metaphor, but when we're really looking at like movies like Arena 2011, uh, like that kind of feels like, hey, if you have a winning thing, you're gonna go and take care of it and polish it and whatever to make it look uh, better, but still put it under the same old mask, so to speak. So, if not only in the beginning of this movie we had to have a huge cluster of Death Race 2 footage to just be like, hey guys, remember when we had a technically good film? Forget all that. Just forget all of it. We're just going to go off and do this death race that like you can't tell what the heck is going on or nothing makes sense anymore, and you're just like seeing just people just do these dialogues and I'm just like, god, this sucks. Like it's severely generic. Like we have the one woman, god, what is her name, in this film, uh the one girl who is to be the kind of the person behind the other prison that they go to, they transition to, I think in like South Africa. I question myself. Uh, like she is to just say like, "Hey, don't miss that shot. You better have gotten that shot. Shot. You better have shot." This girl has no line delivery, and everything is just like, "Wow, that's so awesome," or like everybody has to have some kind of reactional thing because there's nothing that they can actually deliver as far as lines go. Uh, but like with the original Death Race, there wasn't much to really just be say there either. But still, it's just worse off because like there's nothing in this story as far as story goes. It's just like, hey, wait to the hook of the film, and that's about it. Wait to the change of the way of they do things in this film. So Niles is to take over, and so Niles is to come in and basically tell Frankenstein to his face that, of course, Frankenstein needs to continue to lose because Wayland had figured out that Niles is setting up franchises, and Niles has bought out plenty of prisons so that way they can go into several different locations to perform these death races while bringing certain characters that have already been successful previously to the Death Race franchise, like 14K or Frankenstein. So here's the thing that I thought was dumb. So in this third movie, we've had it already now where Carl Lucas has won 4 races, and I'm just like, you couldn't have had it to where like he is to have won this one race to make it his fourth, or they could have played around with it a little bit more. What does it matter that now Lucas is on his fourth win? What difference does it make now? I guess teeing it up to the Death Race other film, but that's a weak kind of thing going on here. So so we have like scenes where Carl Lucas is kind of in the Frankenstein getup, and he walks off, and Goldberg is like, "Hey, like, we helped him win 4 matches, and we don't even get a thank you." It's like, well, yeah, because you're not getting out of prison. He is. So, like, what is he gonna do? Like, thank everybody and shake everyone's hands and like kiss babies and like, what is he gonna do? Like, as soon as he wins all these 5 races, he's gonna win his freedom. He's not gonna just be like, "Hey man, I'm sorry that that I went through all these races and won them and won my own freedom." Like, plus also like Carl Lucas is technically putting his life on the line. These guys are just off to the side, sitting in some uh, tent place somewhere where they're telling him what to do, even though technically they like throughout these films kind of risk their life because of consistent bizarrely explosions going right by the place where the coaches are. Which, how is it that they've never figured out how to save those people from getting shot or getting riddled with whatever explosives, bullets, whichever? This is the third film, right? This is the third installment, and still coaches are seemingly getting killed. Whatever. So, but let's go into it. So, Lucas is talking with Niles, telling him he's gonna lose, uh, so he can live, or if uh, if Lucas is to seemingly win, then Niles is going to make sure that Lucas dies. So let's say, for example, if Lucas goes on and kills every single driver and he's the only one left in the last lap of things, if he is to win because no one else is alive, Niles is going to come up with some way to stop Lucas from winning, and then so no one wins. Isn't that a stupid idea? Like, but that, in my mind, is how that's going to be built up. Is like, what if Lucas just goes through, gets a sword, and shoots every single truck and every single car? They all blow up, and now Lucas is to be the only one left. And so is Niles just going to be like, no, I can't let him win still. I can't let him win, even though he's the only one left. I will go and I will completely just like this race will just be effed, and like, but I just want Lucas to not win. So stupid. So that's a whole like dumb idea where Niles is to just come in there and threaten Lucas, and I'm like, he's not gonna get his fifth win anyways, because there is so much that obviously tells us that there is a Jason Statham movie that tells us that Frankenstein does not win his fourth race. There also is to be a thing that tells us that neither Frankenstein nor 14K is going to die from these matches anyways, because this is still a technical prequel movie. So I don't know. It's wasted threats, making so that the Niles character is to be such an intimidating person. But once he kind of actually gets to that other prison and starts lip locking it with the warden in that prison, I'm just like, God, this guy gets so freaking annoying. Like, not only Niles with his assistant Prudence, but then with this other warden girl. Uh, so Lucas is to, of course, go and have the Frankenstein mask on, and so I'm like, oh yeah, there has to be a way for them to still need to talk to somebody. There needs to be some kind of dialogue exchange here with someone, and Frankenstein is not a talker. So they have to figure out a way to now have story here between the group and Frankenstein, who normally doesn't talk. So what happens when Lucas and 14K and all the rest of the people all make it to this new prison. Is the new prison is just like one of the new prisoners is to say that he's a fan of Goldberg, and that like they have women here, and why do they have to bring some of their own, and so on and so forth. And so all of a sudden a fight starts breaking out, and so I think Goldberg ends up getting stabbed in the arm or something. Like he gets hurt a lot in this movie. So fight breaks out. All of a sudden, Lucas is fighting more people than anyone else is, because of course he would. So Lucas is starting to deck some people, but one of the guys ends up taking off Lucas's mask to showcase, oh my god, Lucas is Frankenstein, even though they technically alluded to that in the very last movie, where Liz is like, well, maybe Lucas is still technically alive within Frankenstein, even though he doesn't literally say that, but. And so, all of a sudden, when Lucas has mask off, all of the group just feels utterly betrayed because they're like, oh my god, like this guy was such an a-hole and he couldn't have trusted me with his secret. I feel so horrible about this. And I'm like, I'm sorry, probably all of you should have known that this was Frankenstein, Lucas, same person, the whole gosh darn time. They should have just, when like they revealed the mask off, the whole team should have been like, I knew it. Like there was just something that just like was like it felt that I didn't know, but I just like I felt that Lucas was under that mask the whole time. But instead, no, they felt so betrayed. Even List, who said in the last film, yeah, I think, like, Carl is Frankenstein. Then in this movie, it's like, no, I'm betrayed just as much as everyone else is. So, Lucas is to go in with the group and is trying to, like, guys, there's a whole reason why I had to tell you, or I couldn't tell you who I was. And they're like, yeah, you could have trusted us, though. It's like, whatever. You guys have nothing to talk about in this movie, I guess. So then Lucas is to bring in the gang back in to just kind of tell him, like, hey, man, like, I still, like, I couldn't tell you why, but, like, I'm gonna have a plan going on that I'm gonna, like, give you guys all in on this plan so that way you guys can know, like, what we're gonna do at the end of this movie. And then they're all like, I'll listen to that, without the camera showcasing what this plan actually was. We just see them off in the distance kind of planning something that we find out at the end of the movie what it actually is, because the first Jason Statham movie did that, even though there also is another Death Race 2000 movie that was technically before all of this stuff. And I don't know why I keep saying that the first Jason Statham movie is to be the only one, because it's not. Whew! So let's just go on to the whole Death Race part of things. Let's get that under our cap so we can kind of get through all this rigmarole. So we have the goofiest introductional way of doing things when we get here. It just feels like, hey guys, hey, look over there, that's Razor. Razor. Hey guys, look over there, there's Nero. It's Nero. Where they have to, like, bizarrely put the weird, like, they couldn't do it all in one fell swoop to just kind of do it in the show-like way. You weirdly just have to point out somebody, and then all of a sudden the weird graphics come in afterwards. And man, the graphics aren't honestly that great in this movie. They're just kind of this splash of, like, whatever the heck. Just not as good as the other films. But, like, whatever, right? It's just, like, let's just get this movie over with kind of thing. That's what they kind of feel like it. But, like, just the goofiest, like, hey guys, it's a really intimidating character called Razor. Razor, yeah, let's see let's see what it looks like with his navigator and his car just next to him. Like, babyface, yeah. At least I think they got the same voice guy from the other films. At least you can give him that, right? Psycho, yeah. He's weird. The one here's really something really goofy. So in the IMDb, they list a guy as Sergeant Fury, and in the movie, his name is Joker. Is IMDb up, or is the credits just listing him as some character, which he's not? Because I'm not seeing Joker listed anywhere. Because when he dies, when he buys and dies, his name is Joker, so what's going on there? I'm so confused. Uh, Plus, also, that Joker character, the actor and everything surrounded with that Joker character, freaking sucked. Like, if that wasn't the worst character out of all these bag of people that actually, like, we have like a passenger, a navigator driver who's basically like telling Joker what to do the whole time, and he's like meow 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 whatever, like shut up, like I'm just gonna go and like, and plus this girl isn't like she's just nagging at him. She's not even telling him what to do. She's just like, hey stupid, like make sure you're like doing stuff. Like that's really all of which that she can really just say. She's just insulting him, and like any of the line delivery that this guy is to like deliver is such like a wooden thing, where it's like, oh, it's Frankenstein. Oh, yeah, it's Frankenstein. Oh, like, so man, I wish they could have killed him off early. So as well as any number of people. So I guess forcibly, if we're gonna have anybody seemingly like present a character here, which what the was even Nero in this movie? Because like Nero was just a character that didn't really have much of any kind of character, but then he ends up getting like ripped to shreds by a bunch of people in some random part of town somewhere. Uh, I think uh, I think Baby was the one guy who I think ended up getting killed by Olga, and Baby might have had that kind of like Big Bill performance from the last movie. They try to make him seem like that guy, but they never gave him much time on camera. So basically, he just came off as a nobody to me. Uh, Psycho actually does have some fun stuff in this movie. Out of everyone else, it seems like he has a personality. Razor is just a guy to deliver random lines whenever. Um, but I don't get how this guy is to like. They kind of built him up as possibly an intimidated character. There's nothing about him because there's nothing about anybody. Like everybody is just a revolving door of generic in this film. So, but let's get into the race. So it seems that Diablos is to jump the track early and to start the race before everyone else does. It doesn't matter Diablos because really nobody else knows where they're really going in this race. It just seems like they just have just random scenes of people just kind of driving through sand and like, hey, is this race ever gonna end? Probably not. Just continue to just drive somewhere into this sand. Just kind of just be bumping and jumping through this sand, and like we just need like X amount of time to kill in this film. So just keep driving through this sandy area, and then we'll transition into these other parts of like actual cities where there's random people that shoot bullets in the air or shoot at maybe the possible cars, and we have certain reactions of those, like, hey, who are these people? List, you got to tell me who these people are, because you're the list guy. You got to know who everything is. And luckily, List has that list. Just mentioning, riling off that, like, there's some drug lord characters. So Diablos goes and gets a rocket to his car, and his car ends up blowing up. Babyface also suffers the, or no, no, it's not Babyface. Is it Pretty Boy? I think it's Pretty Boy. God, what is the goofy, good-looking character name? Um, Good. Let me pause here for a second. Yeah. So isn't this great? The IMDb for this movie freaking sucks. So technically, the warden or the host of this death race is to be a girl named Santana, and that's not even in IMDb anywhere. Uh, I was right about the Joker character, and Pretty Boy was the other character that went off to drive a car into a part of town, and then he decides to jump out of his car and run off to have a rocket go and blast into him and burst his body into confetti like pieces. So, further on into this race, oh, when Goldberg was to get stabbed, he ended up seeing a nurse that evidently was a real big fan of his, and so she ended up giving him a BJ because she really likes Goldberg. So much so that she ends up helping him out a little bit later when Goldberg is to be dead. We'll talk about that later. So, uh, so 14K, of course, is to basically survive this thing because prequel movie. Uh, so now we have to kind of discuss how random people are to eventually die at some point. Uh, Joker kind of becomes a character that is to shoot this cannon out of his car. So they end up going and taking him out by weirdly just having supposedly Carl's character driving really close to him, and then uh, Joker's car can't handle the rough terrain that I guess Carl's car can. So Joker's car flips over, and so they're out of the race. Uh, let's see. Really just kind of comes down to Lucas and Razor, and Psycho is kind of in fourth for a while. Nero, and that's about it because kind of the one guy I think named Baby and Olga kind of take themselves out because Olga is to uh, have her car get flipped over and is to kind of spin around quite a few times. Baby is to come back to shoot Olga, and so Olga was to be the only one with a weapon put into her vehicle. Or I think the guy was going to run over Olga. That makes a lot more sense because she's the only one with weapons. So Olga goes and blasts her rockets to take down Baby's car, and so basically wipes out both of those cars at the same simultaneous time. So Now, Nero, like I would say, he is to go on to go through the race and get to where people are pulling him out of his own car and his navigator, and they're tearing him apart and beating them to death. And that is a sad fate between all of those people, both Nero and his navigator. Uh, Psycho is to die uh, by having his car flipped over, and then all of a sudden his because his car was shot up by Razor, and so Psycho's car flips over. All of a sudden, there's certain gasoline that is pouring into not only Psycho but his navigator's kind of course, place where they're sitting at, and so Psycho and his navigator try to get out of their car, and so Psycho by accident ends up getting lit on fire, and he jumps into the water to douse himself off. So let me get also to this moment. So when Frankenstein was in second place in one part of this film, he ends up getting a consolation prize of a woman, and we have Katrina that's getting very jealous that she assumed that Lucas was sleeping with this other girl because Katrina had told Lucas that they can't be who they were before at some point in this film. So later on, Katrina is to ask Lucas, it's like, well, did you sleep with her? And Lucas is like, well, no, because you know I couldn't. Because, like, they're meant to be together. So, and you could tell that, like, Katrina is just getting all just, like, longing and jealous and lonesome because Lucas isn't there for her. And, like, she can't be there for Lucas and blah, blah, blah. So, back into the race. So, how does Razor die? Uh, there has to be this one spot where, God, how does Razor die? There's always that complicated thing where it's like you always forget how one person is dying in a film, and I always say that, and I always have that problem. Uh, I think there's a spot uh, where Lucas was to bring in some military force to try and help them in this race. And so that kind of helps certain characters who do have uh, like weapons, because we have at some point where I think Razor has his flamethrower on his weapon and on his vehicle, I mean. And so Razor is to go through and start like baking some grills, some food off of some people's grills, and they're like, "Yeah, he baked my cook, or he baked my cook, he baked my meal, yay, woohoo!" And it's like, "Wow, that's exciting! Wow, that's great." So this movie's so stupid. So uh, we have it where uh, it seems like Lucas is going to win this race, and so we have York. We have him wanting to release a rocket to go after Lucas, and so 14K is to go on and is use these countermeasures, and because there's like defense, like there's shields right in this thing, no, so why does 14K have a counter-measuring thing if he doesn't have the ability to have gotten a sword thing, which wouldn't have had a countermeasure thing anyways? I am so confused about this whole countermeasure thing, but like it's just to be a flashy thing for 14K to do to save Lucas yet again, so that way the rocket thing does not matter. So what happens is that Satana is to find out that she is being bought out by York, and so now she ends up calling somebody and realizing that she's been betrayed by York, and so she's calling someone else. So Santana is to go and cuff York to this like obvious stage that they're on, and so Lucas is to come after York because he is to not really care about the race. He lets 14K win because really Lucas is to not care about winning. Lucas is to care about getting even. So Lucas goes into the place of which that they're holding this Santana York stage of a thing, and so Lucas is to crash his car into the set, burning it up, and we now assume, oh my god, oh, Frankenstein's probably dead and Christina's dead, and so many people are probably all dead to just kind of transition us to possibly having to come up with a new Frankenstein, which we do, which is York. York is to be the guy that they are to say is now Frankenstein, because Lucas is to come up with a plan that they're going to crash this car and make York the Frankenstein and have both uh, Lucas and uh, Katrina run off to say that they're dead so that way they can run off and leave this prison with Santana's approval because she got called by Wayland and Wayland had told her what to do. So we find out that Goldberg wasn't actually dead, that he was faking being dead so he can kind of hide away, so he can run off and run away from here. And so it seemed that List was going to run away from them, but of course he has to come up with some reason for not doing that because he's like, hey guys, I'm going to be in the Jason Statham movie. So I can't leave. I can't go. Like, I have to just stay here. It's kind of funny because List was to be coaching uh, Lucas in the last leg of this race. And it's kind of funny because actually List was being the navigator for Lucas while like the navigator Katrina was doing nothing, was just looking pretty, and that's all she needed to do, right? Uh, and plus Lucas had to kind of give like, oh yeah, I'm sick of this guy. I'm gonna get rid of this guy. I'm sure he's just really hating a lot of these people. Um, but yeah, so that's how it all breaks down. This movie breaks down. I think I'm gonna break down and call it a day because man, just ugh. um. But yeah, this movie was just not good either. So when Frankenstein is to go back to the the terminal prison, we have List who goes in there. It's like, yeah, that's him. That's Frankenstein. He just seems different, but same guy. So Prudence is to go on and have this guy be Frankenstein, and so I'm assuming that Prudence is to be the controller of this prison, I guess. And I'm assuming that they're probably going to hand it right back to Wayland or hand it right back to someone else. So Now we have the kind of the Batman, the Dark Knight Rises kind of thing, where like Michael Caine and Christian Bale are on this tropical island somewhere sipping mojitos and whatever. Like we have the cast kind of doing the same thing. We have Goldberg, we have Lucas, we have Katrina, and they're all going and sipping their mojitos in some tropical island somewhere. And Lucas is getting a call from Ving Rhames mentioning that, like, hey, like I would have paid triple for what you did to Niles. And Lucas is just like, well, yeah, man, like that was my plan because this guy deserves it. I'm like, does he though? Does he? Was he really that bad of a guy? I don't know. So, uh, but yeah, so I think that's how I'm just gonna end this one. Like, really, there wasn't much to this film, and I don't know. I just like I hated this one. Hence why I was just kind of like, you know what? I could probably just leave it off at two and be fine. But like, I kind of also want to finish all four of these movies and just kind of like see where they all go, see where the cards drop on to any number of these films. Where there probably might be people that are interested in seeing every single one of these Death Race movies reviewed, because they liked a certain specific one. So, with that said, I think I'm going to get out of here. Any last words that I can think of in this one? I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't think I got anything. So, with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, buddy. Bye, buddy.